Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with a answer, not the answer, a answer to one key question I've been receiving a ton since Persona 5 The Royal had been officially announced. Now I want to thank you all for 1 second here because Persona 5 doing well on my channel is a very foreign sight. JRPGs don't do well here, and it was really exciting to see since Persona 5, as I said in that video I uploaded earlier this week, is my favorite PS4 exclusive, and Persona 4 is one of my top 5 games of all time. Persona 5 is also one of my favorite games of all time. I love this series, so it was really exciting to see. And naturally, I want to answer a question for all the newcomers who haven't played Persona yet, which is, do you still play this bad boy if you know the Royal's on the way next year? Now, there's a couple of things this depends on, but I'm also going to be focusing on the core game itself. But let's talk situationally first. This depends on your gaming schedule. Do you have free time right now? Play this game. It's that simple. It's that good. You should instantly pick this up if you haven't already, especially because it's always on sale at around $20. It is a must-own PS4 exclusive, and I'll explain why in a second. But the reason I say it's situational is because Persona 5 The Royal isn't coming out till 2020, and who knows what other games are coming out at that point in time. At least now you know what your schedule is, you have control over that, and if you can identify some time maybe over the summer where you're free and can put a lot of time into a meaty JRPG, this is the game you should go to. Now let's focus on more factual things like the game itself. Now, realistically speaking, while I'm super pumped for Persona 5 The Royal, I cannot wait to get back to this game, it's truthful to say that we don't know if that brand new content will be good. Now, if we trust in the team who makes Persona games, then we know it's more than likely going to be good and will do justice to the series, but we don't want to sit here and assume, because that's just letting our fanboyism get the best of us in the wrong way, I'd say. When you look at all the new content that we do see being added to Persona 5 The Royal, I'd imagine it's going to bump up that play clock at least 30 hours to about the 150 to 60 hour mark. Now, as you can see here, I beat Persona 5 on my first playthrough in 121 hours, which is a very meaty experience, and some people may back off at the sight of that going, oh my gosh, a single player game takes that long, it must get lost at some point, the story must not be connected the whole time. But that's one of the most impressive feats about Persona 5 is when you buy into this game, it is genuinely a 120 plus hour narrative that doesn't feel stretched at all, that doesn't go on far too long, and that's one of the things I love about it. I just reviewed Days Gone, and that's a game that went on at least 8 hours, far too long, and that was a 30-hour adventure. So to have Persona be a 120 plus hour game and that narrative not feel like it's going on too long just shows how great the writing is, the character interaction, the story that's happening, the delivery of a lot of moments. It's a truly special game, which is also why I genuinely recommend it. I also think perspective is quite important, because while Persona 5's base game is excellent, we have to view the Royal as more of a bonus. And when you have that perspective, it's not like, for example, Persona 4 to Persona 4 Golden, where Persona 4 was an excellent game, but then you had Golden, which added in not only it being an HD remaster, plus trophy support, Marie/Adachi social link, new dungeon and epilogue, quests, events, anime cutscenes, and so on, where that's pretty much the definitive version of that game at this point in time, and that's the best place to experience Persona 4 no matter where you're coming from. Now, some people may prefer the PS2 version, more power to them. I don't argue that. Like I said, Persona 4, top 5 game of all time for me. I adore it. It always makes me cry at the end. But I digress, that we don't know also if the Royal will end up being that definitive version of Persona 5, and I think Persona 5 having already 121 hours, which is many more hours than, for example, Persona 4 offered, and all those 120 plus hours being excellent, shows that this game stands just fine on its own. I mean, why else is Persona 5 good? You have the most diverse set of options during the school life, which is a big mechanic in the Persona game, which pretty much you get to live the day-to-day life as a student before you infiltrate palaces, which are in this game the best dungeons in the entirety of the series. They put the rest of the series to shame. When you look at Tartarus or the dungeons in Persona 4, you're like, what the heck is this? There's tons of social links. The list goes on. Persona 5 is feature complete. There's no piecemeal DLC being added in to complete the experience. It was functionable day one. I think the biggest controversy with this game was that people couldn't stream or post videos of the game past a certain date in game because Atlas didn't want it getting spoiled, which a lot of people were respectful of because the story was so good you didn't want to have it ruined for you. And I know some out there are also holding out hope for Persona to be coming to the Switch. I know I am personally one of those people because I love the idea of laying in this bed, right here, feet kicked up after a long day and playing some Persona 5 and not being hunched over at my TV for another 120 plus hours. I get ya. But here's why I don't think we're gonna see Persona 5 on the Switch for a while. Now I'm saying a while, not at all. And that's because Persona 5 was built using a custom engine. Now, due to its exclusive nature on the PS4, I imagine some of those assets and part of the engine were built to specifically use the power of the PS4. And if that's the case, then when you go to port that game over to the Switch, you have to rework parts of your engine, which simply isn't easy. It's not impossible. Anything's possible in the world of video games, just a lot of companies tell you it's not, but it takes a lot more than a simple port. I imagine that Persona 5 can run fine on the Switch, just I think the engine needs to be tweaked a lot more than folks are imagining. At least that's my assumption based off research I've done on the game. Now, Persona 5 is coming to the Switch in a different way. We have Persona 5 Scramble the Phantom Strikers, which that is one hell of a name. But anyway, for those who like your Muso style games, or more familiar for folks is warrior style games, that's what Persona 5 is turning into. And what this clearly is Persona trying to expand in every way possible, and Atlus making this the most mainstream franchise it possibly can be without losing its sense of identity. Because Persona is one of the few, if not really when I think about it, the only series that can spin off in a million directions and do it well. I mean, there's Persona fighting arena games, which are fantastic, and I really actually enjoyed the stories for both these Persona games. There's Persona Q, which is more of a first-person dungeon crawling game akin to the experiences of the original Persona titles. You also have Persona in Smash now, which gives it a ton of exposure. Hell, even Persona 3 back on the PS2 got its ports to the PSP. We have Persona 5 The Royal. Now we have Scramble being a warrior-style game, which is going to be probably what Atlus had job listings for originally, which was a high-end action RPG, and they were swiftly removed. Now we know exactly what those are. I wouldn't get your hopes up too much on the idea of a Dynasty Warrior style game being a super deep RPG. I imagine it's going to be leveling up weapons, upgrading skills on specific characters like Joker, Morgana, Ryuji, etc., and adding combos to them. Every Warriors game has its own little gimmick, so we'll see exactly what they plan on doing with this one. But I'm just saying, don't think of this as a super deep experience, but I think Warriors games are probably the biggest guilty pleasure I have, where this is super exciting. Anyway, there's a lot of ways to experience Persona is what I tried to highlight in this video. And also, more than anything, is that this Persona game is great on its own, which I think I really drove home in this video. It is the highest of quality that you can get on your PlayStation 4. I don't think you need an acquired taste to accept this JRPG either. I know a lot of people just don't like JRPGs in general, and I understand that, I respect that, and believe it or not, I know a lot of people call me a weeb on the channel, but there was a point in time back in high school where I was the same way until out of all games I played was Final Fantasy 13 too, and I was on board with JRPGs ever since then. And that was also during a time where I didn't know, for example, that Kingdom Hearts was a JRPG, which is a series I still adore to this day. And I think the reason that this is a little more accessible as a JRPG is because some problems that are faced with the main character in this game are somewhat relatable. You can see them happening. It's easier to buy into the reality of this game, although there's a lot of supernatural stuff going on. Also, everyone here who's watched this video at some point in time has been a student, and to live that in a different way and connect with friends, it's just a weird gimmick that actually helps you connect with the characters around you. I don't know quite how to describe that. I just think it's sort of a cool feeling to experience the school life, a standard day-to-day life, through someone else's eyes, and the game has a unique sense of humor, so a lot of that adds to the experience. But anyway, I feel it's one of those titles that's best experienced on your own. You'll understand once you play it. Now, Persona games notoriously have a somewhat slow start. I think Persona 5 has the quickest start of them all, but when it comes to getting into the dungeon, doing combat, it does take about 3-4 hours to get to that point. But all the setup, all the storytelling, trust me, you won't mind that at all. I simply cannot recommend Persona 5 enough. And if you do get this game, tweet at me, let me know you got it. I'd like to know that I did my job well. So that'll conclude today's video about Persona 5. I just wanted to answer a lot of folks' questions. Yes, you should play this game, even if you plan on getting the Royal, because let's say you do like Persona 5, and you're like, yeah, man, I can't wait for the Royal. Then guess what? You're gonna experience one of the best games on the PS4 twice over with some additional content. And let's say maybe this isn't your cup of tea, but you do like the characters. There's a different bunch of ways to experience those characters in other games. And naturally, we do know, based off some rumors and leaks, that Persona 5 Arena is something that will likely happen within the next year and a half to 2 years. So there's going to be a fighting game for Persona 5, and that'll expand the audience even more. So it's going to get wild, folks. I hope you like Persona 5. You're going to be seeing a ton of spin-offs, just like we did for Persona 4 for about, what was it, like 8 years? Anyway, that'll do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.